Somewhere beneath the Arctic ice, two ships waited in silence for 170 years. 129 men marched into the white wilderness, and not one walked out. This is the story of the Franklin Expedition, the greatest disappearance in exploration history. A vanished crew, a buried secret, and a map that may have been deliberately hidden. What happened to Captain Franklin's men inside this frozen labyrinth? Why did the British Admiralty bury crucial route information for over a century? Today we uncover the chilling truth behind the lost expedition and its hidden charts. Stay until the end, because the final discovery will change how you see this mystery forever. In the 1840s, the Northwest Passage was the ultimate prize of global exploration. Whoever found this Arctic shortcut between the Atlantic and Pacific would rewrite world trade forever. The British Admiralty believed the passage lay hidden somewhere inside the Canadian Arctic archipelago. This frozen labyrinth of islands and channels had swallowed expedition after expedition. Yet the prize was too tempting, the glory too irresistible to ignore. In 1845, Britain launched its most ambitious Arctic mission yet. Two reinforced ships, state-of-the-art technology, and an experienced commander would lead the charge. Sir John Franklin, 60 years old, was chosen to command this historic voyage. Franklin had already survived two brutal Arctic expeditions before this final journey. Nobody could have predicted that this third voyage would become his last. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror were the most advanced polar ships of their era. Both vessels carried reinforced hulls, steam engines, and supplies for 3 full years. On board were 129 officers and crew, the best Britain could offer. Libraries, fine china, and even a hand organ filled these confident Victorian ships. The Admiralty expected triumph, not tragedy, for this carefully planned expedition. Franklin himself believed the passage could be conquered within 2 short years. Provisions included over 8,000 tin cans of preserved food, a new technology at the time. Nobody suspected those very cans might hide a deadly secret. The ships departed England in May 1845, flags waving, crowds cheering. Within months, the Arctic silence would swallow every trace of their journey. By July 1845, the expedition reached the icy waters of Baffin Bay. Whaling ships spotted Erebus and Terror anchored near Disco Island, Greenland. 5 crew members were sent home early, considered unfit for the harsh voyage ahead. After this final contact, the 2 ships sailed deeper into the Arctic archipelago. From this point forward, no European would see Franklin's crew alive again. The ships pushed through Lancaster Sound, navigating treacherous, ice-choked channels. Each mile forward carried them further from rescue and closer to the unknown. Temperatures plunged, daylight vanished, and the Arctic winter closed in around them. Erebus and Terror became trapped in pack ice near King William Island. What followed inside that frozen prison remains one of history's darkest mysteries. Whaling Captain Robert Martin became the last European to record contact with Franklin's crew. After 1845, complete silence swallowed the entire expedition without warning. 2 years passed with no word, no signal, no sign of Erebus or Terror. Lady Jane Franklin, the commander's wife, refused to accept official inaction. She pressured the British government relentlessly, demanding immediate search missions. By 1848, public alarm finally forced the Admiralty to respond. Multiple rescue expeditions launched simultaneously, racing against the Arctic clock. Search parties combed thousands of miles of frozen coastline, finding almost nothing. Years turned into a decade, and still the ships remained missing. The world began to suspect that Franklin's entire crew had vanished forever. In 1850, searchers finally located the expedition's first winter camp on Beechey Island. 3 graves were uncovered, perfectly preserved by the permanent Arctic frost. The bodies belonged to crew members who passed away during that very first winter. Scientists later examined these remains, hoping the frozen tissue would reveal hidden answers. Yet beyond these 3 graves, the fate of the remaining crew stayed unknown. No further clues surfaced for nearly another decade of relentless searching. Explorer Francis McClintock pushed deeper into the Arctic archipelago in 1859. His mission would uncover the single most important document in Arctic history. What he found near King William Island finally broke the silence. A small metal cylinder, buried beneath a stone cairn, held the expedition's final words. Inside the cylinder lay a single sheet of paper, now known as the Victory Point Note. This note contained two messages, written nearly a year apart, on the very same page. The first message, dated 1847, reported all was well aboard both ships. The second message, added in 1848, told a far darker story. Sir John Franklin himself had passed away in June 1847. 9 officers and 15 crew members had also been lost by that point. Erebus and Terror had been abandoned, trapped helplessly in the Arctic ice. 105 survivors now planned to march south toward the Canadian mainland. This desperate march would become one of the most harrowing journeys in exploration history. Not a single one of those 105 men ever reached safety. For decades, the British Admiralty largely ignored crucial testimony from local Inuit communities. Inuit hunters reported encountering struggling, starving sailors dragging heavy sledges across the ice. They described men so weakened that some collapsed and never rose again. Inuit oral history spoke of scattered remains found across King William Island. These accounts hinted at desperate, unthinkable choices made in the crew's final days. Western explorers dismissed this testimony for over a century, calling it unreliable folklore. Yet modern archaeology has confirmed almost every detail the Inuit originally reported. Bones recovered from the island bore unmistakable cut marks consistent with survival measures. This grim discovery suggests the crew resorted to extreme measures involving fallen companions to survive. The Admiralty's refusal to listen may have hidden the truth for 100 years. Why did experienced sailors descend into confusion, paranoia, and physical collapse so quickly? Scientists exhuming the Beechey Island graves found disturbingly high lead levels in soft tissue. The expedition's 8,000 tin cans were sealed using lead-based solder. Researchers believe this lead leached steadily into the crew's preserved food supply. Lead poisoning causes confusion, weakness, irritability, and severe abdominal distress over time. Combined with scurvy and starvation, this toxic exposure may have crippled decision-making. Some historians argue lead poisoning explains the expedition's increasingly erratic final choices. Other researchers point instead toward botulism from improperly canned provisions. Either theory paints the same picture, a crew slowly poisoned from within. The very food meant to save them may have quietly doomed them instead. Modern forensic teams have walked the same frozen ground the crew once crossed. Scattered bone fragments tell a story far grimmer than any official report admitted. Cut marks, fracture patterns, and disarticulated remains point toward desperate survival measures. Some skeletons were found neatly arranged, suggesting respectful burial by surviving crew members. Others lay scattered across the tundra, abandoned where exhausted men finally collapsed. Personal items, including silverware engraved with officers' initials, littered the frozen route. These artifacts confirm the desperate march stretched across many brutal, unforgiving miles. Every recovered object adds another fragment to this haunting historical puzzle. Yet no single artifact reveals exactly where the last survivor finally fell. The Arctic itself seems determined to keep that final secret buried forever. For 166 years, Erebus and Terror remained completely lost. Then, in 2014, sonar equipment finally located HMS Erebus underwater. 2 years later, in 2016, searchers discovered HMS Terror nearby. Remarkably, Inuit oral testimony had pointed toward these exact locations all along. Both wrecks rested in shockingly shallow, well-preserved Arctic waters. Underwater archaeologists described Terror as eerily intact, almost frozen in time. Dive teams recovered glass bottles, ceramic plates, and personal officer belongings. Sealed cabin doors hinted that crew members may have reboarded the ships later. This discovery directly contradicted the official narrative of total, permanent abandonment. Someone, it seemed, had returned to these ships after the Victory Point note was written. This single fact reopened one of exploration history's most controversial questions. Did the British Admiralty possess additional route information it deliberately chose to hide? Some historians argue Franklin secretly altered his planned course before becoming trapped. Admiralty records reveal sealed orders that were never fully disclosed to the public. Lady Franklin herself believed officials withheld crucial navigational details for decades. Could revealing certain Arctic routes have threatened Britain's claims to North American territory? The Northwest Passage carried enormous strategic value for future Arctic sovereignty claims. A fully mapped passage might have shifted geopolitical control across the entire region. Some researchers believe the Admiralty buried specific charts to protect future territorial interests. If true, Franklin's men may have paid the ultimate price for a hidden agenda. Today, fragments of Erebus and Terror remain frozen beneath protected Arctic waters. Canadian and British researchers continue diving these wrecks, searching for missing answers. Every recovered artifact brings us one step closer to the complete, true story. Yet key questions about hidden maps and altered routes remain unanswered to this day. Did ambition, poison, or buried secrets ultimately end this proud expedition? Perhaps it was a haunting combination of all three forces working together. The Arctic ice still guards the final truth about Franklin's vanished crew. If this hidden history fascinated you, subscribe now for more buried mysteries from across the globe.